Let me say hello to all of those who are going to come and eventually will show up at some point or another. Uh, I've given a lot of thought to who could qualify as the worst sitting senator. So, out of the current ones, not throughout history, because we could literally be here all day if that's the case, or if we just use that as the determining point. And I think the easiest one that people would probably agree to, especially if they have my kind of leaning, being progressive or whatever, is Manchin from West Virginia, who Jesus Christ. And I just to kind of give you an example where I'm coming from, a lot of people would get pissed at him for voting for, I think, all of Trump's cabinet nominees, or a majority of them. And I kind of, even if that does bother me to an extent, it's not a selling point, because my ideology or my view is this: they're going to get through anyway because Republicans have control of the Senate. Now, in instances where it's like a really close vote, like the education secretary or the EPA administrator, who's not cabinet, admittedly, but you get my point, that if it's something where it's like 50 to 52 or 49 to 46 or something like that, I'm a lot more likely to get pissed, because you literally could have been a swing vote here. And that's usually the reason why people focus so much on Collins from Maine and Murkowski from Alaska. This idea that these people are among the few members of either party to actually try to think on an independent basis and not just go and vote with their party 100% of the time. They just stay wasted. They have so many different opportunities to actually do something with it. But I noticed that he's probably, out of all those ones who have those kind of sort of weird votes, like they vote sometimes and they'll go along with their party. He's the one who just does it so often that people who are in his own party don't like him, and people who are in the other party don't like him, even if he votes with them, to some large extent. When I think of votes he's made that piss me off, it's probably his initial vote to go to deny or rather to approve U.S. military sales to Saudi Arabia. And that's actually part of the reason I don't like, a lot of people don't like Collins, because she, voted for Kavanaugh, which I don't know why anybody expected her not to, because that's right up her alley. Republicans voting for Republican judges. I don't get why that was so surprising. But I personally don't have that much of a problem with her. But that's because I actually follow this stuff with regularity and not when the cameras are shining on people. So, for example, she voted for she was one of, I think, maybe 7 Republicans that voted to get out of Yemen. And she actually has a record of wanting to get out of there since at least last year. So in the last couple of times where that vote's actually mattered, she's been on the side of wanting to end that literal genocide that the U.S. has assisted in. Um, and that's still way more credit than I can give for most other Republicans. Like they did Trump did the veto. I think it was last week, the week before last, and I was just sitting there. I was thinking to myself, isn't it sad that Congress is set up, or the people in there are so screwed up in the way that if you articulate to them why there is nothing to be gained from bombing a bunch of children that have literally done nothing to the U.S., uh, they can't see it. Like, you could sit there and talk to these Republican senators about this crap for multiple hours, and it wouldn't make any difference. And that's why, when we had the Jamal Khashoggi scandal thing, I was like, you guys are really more worried about this one journalist, again, admittedly getting killed in a horrible way, but they took it to where now this means more than anything else. And it was the same thing with the Kavanaugh stuff. I was like, look, it's an important vote. The guy's going to be on the court for 20 or 30 years, but let's not kid ourselves. If he got denied, Trump's not going to then go and pick, some progressive judge that wants to tear up Citizens United and, restore the EPA to its wonderful roots, even though I wish he would. But you get the point that with the votes of putting someone in a position of power, I'm a lot less likely to get pissed if it's, if it happens while one party controls the branch of the Senate, because it's going to get through anyway. Um, and also because if that person gets rejected, they're just going to stick somebody else. I guarantee you, if Kavanaugh's nomination fell through, we would be sitting here discussing some other stupid, or at least seen by a lot of progressives as stupid Republican judge. And I really do hate that they took just to kind of get off topic for a little bit. I really hate that they took the Christine Blasey Ford allegations and blew it up to where it mattered more than his record, because it allowed the Republicans to weaponize these, allegations. That's what they were at the end of the day. There's no trial or conviction. So they took these allegations and made it to where that was the main selling point of why he shouldn't be on the court. And they got gaslighted and they were able to get tricked. When again, it should have been over his actual voting record of siding with corporations 87% of the time. But people don't like to follow instructions, and a lot of these party officials like to think they're smarter than regular people who just use common sense when they try to execute a political philosophy. In the case of Murkowski, I do like that her and Collins. I think what's the other one's name? I think it's the other one from not Alabama, from West Virginia. And the one for that Democrat from Alabama is terrible, by the way. But the one from West Virginia, I think her name is Capito or something, whatever this lady's name is. She's one of the three Republican senators that favors that's pro-choice or whatever, at least claims to be anyway. And that's a selling point for me only because I've said it before. A lot of times, if I give Republicans credit, it's usually for siding with the U.S. on some, or siding with the Democrats or the ones that I think actually like have brains in their heads, on getting out of some conflict. So, like, for example, when that Israel thing happened, like all the Democrats and Republicans, for the most part, got together like, I'm so disgusted by what she said and not what we're doing. And that's one of those examples of just bipartisan stupidity, like basically saying, I don't care if both parties support it, I don't. You get out of here with that. But yeah, it's refreshing to see a couple of them at least be decent on one of these social issues. Even though as I said before, I try to look at the bigger picture when it comes to these different members of Congress. That's why when we had the little scandal with Kerry, the Secretary of State, the former Secretary of State, when he testified to the whatever House committee that Thomas Massie was on, the representative, and people were calling him stupid. I'm like, he's one of the few Republicans that actually wants to get out of these foreign wars. He's not dumb. It's like, yeah, he made some comments that were kind of, I don't agree with them, but I'd rather he make those kind of comments and antagonize Kerry than vote in the way that I hate, like, which is what most of them tend to do. So it was sad, just to kind of see them have to play this game where, that's why I hate the internet. They take these little small clips of stuff and then that becomes the entire selling point of who someone is, just like, I still can't get over that people really took that Kavanaugh vote and made it the end all be all for anyone who voted whichever way they didn't like. Like, I've seen all these, and it's funny because it kind of goes like this. Basically, if you piss the Democrats off, they swear revenge. If you praise Republicans, they go, good job, bubble boy, and then just leave you alone. So, for example, Manchin is no more liked by Republicans than the rest of the Democrats, even though he has a record of voting with Republicans more than any of the other Democrats. But then someone like Collins, for example, had her approval rating literally, I think it was at like 60%. It went to 35 or something. And I was thinking to myself, that's all tied to this one vote that, admitted, again, I don't agree with, but like, you guys really turned it into the end of the world. Like, this is the essential thing that she must do, or else she is just unredeemable and is terrible and must go now. And like, they're really turning her re-election campaign, the one that she's going to have next year, into this big, huge debacle. And it's been really funny because at first they said, oh yeah, what's that woman's name? Susan Rice is going to run against her and she's going to take her out. And SNL did this little skit where they, predicted that she would lose her seat. I believe it was, during this next election. And then Rice was like, I'm not actually running, by the way. So that I like how that backfired on them. So it's I feel like these people who don't live in the state always try to think that because of some approval rating that automatically means the person can. I'm like, no, McConnell's won over and over again, every 6 years, in spite of having I think it's the lowest approval rating, of any senator. Like, his approval ratings in the 30s, like just all the way at the bottom, and he still is able to win. So why wouldn't Collins have the same exact thing happen to her? And I just wish people would think about this stuff in a critical manner. Like, they just kind of they don't tend to really try to give common sense to things, because all those people who say I don't like her and bleh, still might not go out and vote. And that's exactly what happens in Kentucky. When we had the 2014 re-election campaign for McConnell, they ran this woman and she was like, "Oh yeah, I'm a Democrat and I'm going to be da 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 da." And she tried to do this little moderate thing, and people actually thought, "Yeah, it's over for him." And oh my God, these are his last days and year or whatever. And he was right back in, and he's gonna most likely be right back in, after next year, which really is a shame, because it's like you have all these people that say they don't like him, even in his own party, uh, because he's seen as like the reason why the Obamacare repeal didn't go through by Republicans. And he's also seen as, this arch enemy for Democrats. And yet for some reason, they just can't get rid of him. It's the damnedest thing, but it should tell you that those approval ratings can only go so far. If I have an 88% approval rating, like just being a good Samaritan, doesn't mean I'm going to win an election. It means most people might still have a high opinion of me, but that still doesn't mean, like all of them are just going to register to vote and show up. Plus, that might be oversampling people that can't vote, because whether if they're a convict or underage, just little stuff that, again, the numbers start to get murkier. Like they need to do it to where it's like, oh, here's the approval rating among registered voters and, people that actually can influence the election and, in terms of casting a ballot. So again, I think that, and I've seen the same thing with Murkowski. She's getting threatened. In 2022, Palin's going to take your seat. It's like, man, all Palin does is go on Twitter and write stupid stuff about the world. Like that's her whole career now. She had a chance to be Trump's VP and turned it down because she knew that it would screw with his chances because people have low opinion of her. So it's basically over for her as far as like running for anything, which is really funny because like I remember the interim of 2008 2012 and just like seeing her be propped up as one of the potential Republicans to run for president, and knowing that she never did, it's really funny. It's quite comical. There was actually a person who made a really nice article where they were talking about, so basically one of the like selling points now during this Democratic primary is people take artificial things and they try to make them like they try to oversaturize their importance. So for example, this person took the fact that Gillibrand was the only senator Democrat that voted against all of Trump's cabinet nominees. They're like, oh, she's the one who's been the least like Trump. I think to myself, she voted against Mattis, who, like, again, because I don't have Trump derangement syndrome. I don't care if it, there's a reason why he was the first one confirmed, why he was able to get 99 or basically almost universal support in the Senate. It's because he was not a Republican fundraiser like DeVos or Tillerson, who were able to get by their positions. And he also wasn't just Trump's stooge. Like he disagreed with him on multiple issues. He disagreed with him on the Iran nuclear deal, on the Paris Climate Accord, or the Paris Agreement rather. So he had a background that qualified him for his position, and it also showed him to not just be Trump's yes man. And it really sucks because every time I think about what led him to resign, it's like I'm stuck defending someone that literally resigned over doing something I hate, which is continuing the war, in this case in Syria. And ironically enough, he still ended up getting his way because Trump decided to reverse pulling out of there. So it's sad that like the one person that almost everyone agreed was qualified except the diehard Trump haters gets rejected by her. I remember just only one, and then now she can go around and go, yeah, I was the only person to vote against everybody. Ruben says Lindsey is one of the worst. Yeah, man. And the saddest thing about those southern state ones is that I don't know what it is, but ever since I realized this, I'll just look at their picture and say to myself, you guys are talking about the Supreme Court lifetime, like hell, any of these people who get in here at 40 or 30 or 50, you're going to be, because especially since they're in the South, you're going to be staring at that face for another couple of decades. Like Graham is going to be in there for as long as Thurman was. If you know who that is, Rubin, his immediate predecessor, who I'd actually argue is one of the most significant senators of all time. We can discuss him at a later date. Going back to what I was saying though, you have these people who will then go and take the fact that she voted for all these different against all of Trump's nominees and make it a big deal. But then you look at something like I think I lost my point. Wow, I was going on this this whole tangent about they'll take some that do, oh, now I remember. Klobuchar, for example, she likes to go around and say, well, not her, but her little supporters, the little tight knit group that they are on Twitter, go around and say she passed more legislation than any other senator in the, I think it was the 114th or one of those different recent sessions of Congress. And they're like, oh, yeah, she accomplished. I was like, wait a second. So you mean to tell me that now the way we measure someone's accomplishments is just by the numbers? Like, for example, if I pass a single bill, right, and in this bill you get Medicare for all, tuition-free college, whatever, right? And then we find a way to where it saves the U.S. money as well because we cut the military budget in half. That's inferior to 10 bills about giving each public school in the U.S. $100 more. Like, do you not see how stupid that argument is? Rather than the quality of the single piece of legislation you passed, we're now going to go by the quantity, because automatically, since you passed more, you must be a bigger threat or a bigger deal or whatever the hell. What if she signed her name on stuff that she knew wasn't controversial or wouldn't, precisely wouldn't get that much opposition because of the fact that it wasn't a big deal? You get what I'm saying? That it, like, this is what pisses me off about these people that don't actually follow this stuff. So when the first Step Back passed, right, which I thought was this really milquetoast law that doesn't address the problem, it's like, yeah, it's criminal justice reform, but that's why I hate the word reform, because my idea of actually changing the system is ending the drug war, letting those incarcerated vote. And I know CNN would cut that clip out and then use it for one of their smear campaigns, but you get the point that there's a lot more to it than just what was in that bill. And unfortunately, because it passed with these overwhelming numbers, people go, oh my God, most senators are good people at heart because they want to change. Like, no. They voted for it precisely because they know it doesn't do that much. It's the same thing with the ACA. It's like, you have Big Pharma giving all these people all these dollars. So of course, we're not going to put in single payer, but they're going to try to make it seem like they care. So you give them this little milquetoast crap. And Ruben, because I'm glad you're here. There was in the stream I did yesterday, I was talking about this woman, and when me and her had the political discussion, she tried to make the argument that supposedly single payer was made more achievable or helped in some manner by the ACA being implemented first. And, like, this is why I don't like having these discussions with a lot of people, because they try to make stuff that sucks seem like it's okay or good. And I was basically saying, hey, this system has been used in other countries where they didn't have the ACA or anything like that. They just went from having no health care to having, the government's one single plan. Like, do you not get how stupid that is? Like, why is it to where only here they had to have some halfway crap before giving you the full thing? And that's why I use the analogy of it's like having a girlfriend that beats you and cheats on you. It's like, oh, you can't just get one that doesn't beat you and cheat. You have to first go to the one that just beats you. Let's see. Dana says war on drugs, particeutical states of America. Wait, puritanical states of America. Yeah, they've taken these very basic supplements and then sort of weaponized them against people. It's just like, you go over to these different people that look at these records on these senators, and I'm like, you guys will use these different little stupid websites where all they do is say this person voted for this person voted for that. It's like they're not trying to frame a narrative. They're just showing you a couple of votes. Like, no, you don't. There's more to it than just so much for smug government. Yeah. But going back to what I was saying, if and I'm sure Ruben remembers this, that bill that Bernie had from 2 years ago, the one that Booker voted against. It's like, the vote is stupid, but it makes a hell of a lot more sense. And even though you still hate that he did it, when you factor in the 200,000 he took from Big Pharma, it's like, of course he's going to vote that way when the coins are corrupting him. But if you go on one of those different websites, they don't tell you that. You have to go look for this on your own. You have to, draw conclusions and whatnot. Ruben says Big Pharma benefits greatly from the war on drugs. Oh yeah, that's why I was saying that I don't think, like, that's my problem, that in this little stupid Democratic field, the only people that I actually trust, with the exception of one of them, I don't even think have an actual shot of winning. Like, Tulsi's going to get screwed over by two things: low name recognition, and then the few times she's, like actually on TV, she's getting smeared as a Assad supporter. Like people actually even care about Syria. It's like we can't even get you guys to care about a genocide that the U.S. is perpetuating in another country, much less who the hell the leader is of some other place that you won't get your military out of year after year. Jesus Christ. And then Gravel apparently is not even gonna make it to the debate stage because people are really lazy and won't donate. I was like, we really don't have 65,000 people to do that? Like, seriously? Then again, I thought to myself, it makes sense because look how long it took Tulsi to get all those donors. So it adds up in a way. It all goes together. People refuse to congregate and sort of, make a little pledge to assist each one of them as part of a grander scheme. But it is what it is. I mean, like, the only reason you even have all these different establishment people is purely for the motive of, if this person doesn't work, let's go to the next one. So they wanted to use Harris, and they've seen that her stuff has started falling and going down and down. Then they put out O'Rourke, and his stuff starts going down and down. Then they put up this stupid mayor that no one's ever heard of that's accomplished nothing, and here we are. They just take one person and swap them out with another one, depending on if they work or not. It's all part of a little scheme to preserve the status quo. And what was really kind of disturbing about it is that you would think Harris would do a lot better because, like I said before, I think she's a snake and a shapeshifter who likely will just backtrack on every single thing she does if she gets elected. But as a senator, she doesn't have a voting record I'm really that upset by. Like, she sponsors a single payer bill. No, that doesn't mean I actually believe she supports it. O'Donohue, don't come in here spoiling that movie. We don't need any more plastering of stuff about that film. Hey, post a link to where we can see it. We can all see it for free. if you're gonna talk about it, it's either, but who, with Pete's, what did you call him? Pete's cigarette? But who is the establishment's choice for the cigarette butt? I still think that they wanted to use Harris, and like now they're realizing she's not getting anywhere because like the only thing she has going for her is fundraising, and that's only because her name recognition has gone up a hell of a lot more than it was in the last like 2 years than when she was AG of California. And I kept trying to explain to this person that I remember when we had in the state legislature a single payer healthcare bill. I believe it was the first year that she was senator, or possibly the year it was really like it was around 2016, 2017. And she just would never support the bill or talk about it or give it any kind of lip service, almost like it didn't even exist, like it was this big ghost. But then I'm now supposed to believe that she's changed her mind and evolved to support this bit, to support single payer, and is such against the big companies, and like, no, you're a scammer. And I really had to explain to this person, you don't get why someone would think a person is a snake if you can find clips of them from 3 years ago acting like this bill that does what they claim they're now in favor of didn't even exist. Didn't say a single word about it. Like literally, like I'm supposed to believe that the attorney general didn't know what was going on in the state legislature. There was a person on Twitter who said she was more silent about single payer in California when it was in the state legislature than Thomas Jefferson was about Sally Hemings. Because I remember, I don't, well, I'm sure most probably don't even recall that. Basically, it was that broad that Jefferson's rumored to have children with, where like it was during his lifetime, he just would completely ignore that, like it didn't even exist or never happened. I just thought that was so funny. Just tight-lipped, close your mouth, don't say a word, act like nothing's happening. In the instance of O'Rourke, he's another choice where they I really think what ended up happening was that they approached Harris when she first became a senator, and they were like, "Oh yeah, you meet all the little different profiles as far as your appearance and whatnot." And then O'Rourke surprised them during the Senate race, and they were like, "Hey, we can give this boy some coins, do what we want." And then he got in there, and he's been like stuck around the same spot as Harris. So then they're like, "Oh man, we got to do. But let's manufacture a candidate. Let's take this mayor that no one's ever heard of, and let's give him all this attention to where we raise his name recognition, and he goes up in the polls because more people know who he is, so they say his name when you ask them who they support, and then that translates to the votes. It's like the media, the people really don't get how the media works. Like they're the whole reason any of these people win. They give them coverage. I mean, it's like the problem is with Sanders when he gets coverage from all these different networks, it's literally just negative stuff. Like it's crazy. You go on Fox, you get, and people actually were making the argument that the Fox town hall was more fair than the one for the from CNN, which it's a sad day when Fox is the most fair to a progressive. That's never good. Jeez, it's like all I remember all those different times that Tucker had Tulsi on his show to like talk about some foreign conflict or whatever, and then like going in the comment section on YouTube and seeing people go, "Oh my God, it's a Democrat that actually makes sense." Like, yeah, they're not asking her smear questions on there. They're not trying to perpetuate, some weird conspiracy theory. I'm getting off topic. I want to go back to what senators suck. So we've been over Graham, we've been over Manchin, been over. We even talked about Cinema, that the one from Arizona. That dude, that's the. I like how even on TYT they called her a traitor on election night, where they said she was a Ralph Nader supporter. So you would think, oh, it's progressive, Green Party, whatever. And then, like literally now is just gets in the House and acts entirely conservative. Like you would almost think she didn't even know what Green Party was. Like what just that as an idea. Let's see. Ruben says it's Bernie's own base that you should watch out for the most. Many of the people that allegedly supported him turned out to be fakes. Oh, you mean like the ones who are like, I supported him last time, but I personally don't think he should run this time. Those kind of people. Are those the ones you're referring to? Because I remember when what's her name, Sanders, not him, not Bernie, but the what's that lady's name? The one that the black one, like the bald head or whatever, that she supported him, and then is like now in the Biden campaign. And one of these guys I went to school with took her picture and like the news articles and just put traitor. It's like that doesn't reflect badly on him. That shows that she's fake. It's like how the hell do you go from the progressive to the establishment in 2 years without always having had that in mind? Ham with cheese. And even my own admin won't even say anything that makes sense. He's over there trying to troll me. Isn't that a lovely experience? And we know O'Donoghue's trolling. He's over here talking about Brie Larson. What does she have to do with the Senators? And you know what? Since you think she's so great, John, I want you to go over to her website and put in the contact information and ask and request that she run for the Senate in her state. So since you think she's so wonderful and so spectacular and whatnot. The moderator will be without food too. What food? Yeah, what food? This is so weird. I swear. What's the other one from South Carolina? The what's his name? Scott. I think the only thing he's done that actually was decent was voting against Thomas Farr, the who was one of Trump's nominees for I think some kind of thing on with the judges, like the Circuit Court of Appeals, and he was controversial because he was part of the Jesse Helms the senatorial campaign. Man, I love those not old but like those political figures that weren't president that no one talks about anymore just because they're not currently active. Like I would love to do a stream about some of those people because there's a lot of interesting stuff they did that is significant that gets it. It's like if Hitler wasn't chancellor of Germany, like how he wouldn't get talked about at all because nobody remembers anyone who's not the executive official. It's like, yeah, but you can still do important stuff, but you just don't have the name recognition. All right, see you later, Ruben. I hope you enjoyed the stream. I hope it made you smile and look up into the sky with a big gaze of gratefulness to the Lord and Savior, depending on your religion or religious affiliation. I don't know. And I sure as hell was feeling that way after that VA stuff finally ended. I mean, seriously, when you go around talking to these people for 5 months and just getting, oh, maybe I might do it, I don't know, and then somebody just says, hey, screw all the filler, let me just record this and send it to you, and then to get those in your notifications, it's so nice, man. I still can't believe it's finally over. That was, it was one of those arcs that just never would end. Like right back and forth, you keep getting the exact same thing repeatedly. Feinstein also sucks, by the way. So let's make it clear that this is an all-out assault on both parties, like usual. Very pro-surveillance. Like basically, is like one of the big dogs supporting the Patriot Act. Horrible war record. It's just terrible, man. I really don't get why she keeps getting reelected over. Oh, I do know why, because people don't actually know her record. That's why they keep selecting that dinosaur. Jesus, she is so horrible, just awful, man. I'm running out of bad adjectives to use to describe her. Like, you've basically been called every dirty name in the book. Ran out of material. And now everybody's just gonna be quiet and just stare at me. Huh? No one's gonna type anything else. No, but like I was saying, you have a whole set of senators who vote pretty identical on a lot of these foreign issues, and then they get to come home and gas you up with the social stuff. Oh, ignore the fact that me, the Democrat and the Republican both voted to send you overseas into some conflict with, let's say, we haven't had this yet, but with Venezuela, because I support your right to an abortion, but this person doesn't, or I support your right to, if you're a Republican, a gun, and this Democrat doesn't. It's like, well, hell, you guys are both still wasting my taxpayer dollars in some conflict with a country that did nothing to me. And people really don't get that. They don't understand the pyramid scheme that they try to trap you in with these social issues. Like I said before, I would take if it was let's say like you had to pick your poison, right? I would take every single senator voting for any of these little stupid court judges if it means all of them vote to get out of Yemen or some other country that we're bombing for no reason. It's like, you could, like, my point is, people take the judges and they go, oh my God, this person's going to influence the law by yada. It's like, yeah, but that just means you have to be more careful with what you do. In the case of these conflicts, they're literally bombing these places. You can't, it's like, I'll give you an example. Let's say that Roe v. Wade gets repealed, right? Okay, well then don't have unprotected sex, which isn't a hard thing to do. Condoms are very much available. People just, I've actually seen individuals who've admitted to liking the feel of, not having anything over it or what. It's like, yeah, but do you really want to, like, that just shows you how selfish people are. But we can go into the failure of man all day long. And you get my point that it's still something where you wouldn't feel the ramifications of it if you didn't participate in something that. And I know this sounds like, oh, you're blaming the people. Like, no, you're saying that you have to take more precautions because now you don't have that law that doesn't make it illegal. But again, that's in the worst case scenario. So yeah, they oversaturize this stuff and make it seem like it's the end of the world. And that's why I was saying that with these foreign conflicts, you get these people getting bombed to death. It is the end of the world for them. They're not going to come back and rise from their graves. But then, I see all these different Democrats who kind of ignore the fact that this is going on because they want to whine about some domestic issue that they think is a bigger deal. And then they get surprised when, like you don't care about babies in cages or any other crap that they use to try and, tug your heartstrings. Like, dude, you guys are the same ones who told my ally on Twitter, keep holding out for that random foreign country, and then you want her to feel bad because you think Trump is going to do something which, like, no, you're not going to get that person's sympathy if you can't even show sympathy to other human beings just because they don't live in the U.S. And it was the same thing with this woman. I mean, I talked to her about this conflict, and at one point she asked me if I had any relatives who lived in that. I was like, do you not get how insane that sounds? The only time you can ever show any kind of empathy for anyone in any other country is if you have some kind of direct lineage. So like no one but besides me was like, what the hell is wrong with you? It's like I get why the senators all vote to stay over there. They want to, stroke their defense contractor buddies. Like I just love how all the different crappy votes they have can just be decided upon either some donor or party loyalty. I mean, it's crazy. Like you even had Gravel when he had this interview with I think it was Pacman, I'm talking about the guy that does the show on Free Speech TV, and he called out Collins and Murkowski as the only Republicans in the Trumpian party that don't just blindly support everything he does. And I don't even think that's true. I think Rand Paul's also one of them because he let's see, he voted against Barr. He was opposed. I think he was opposed to Pompeo, but then voted for him afterward. I just see him as an outlier. He supported Trump when he initially pulled out of Syria when all the other Republicans were losing their minds. And by the way, notice how Cruz didn't say anything in those like 4 months that they thought Trump was going to get out of Syria. It's like that's a master politician right there. They know what to say and when not to say something. And he knew that because people don't pay attention to this stuff at all, he could go 4 months with this major geopolitical thing happening and just not a word. Like Rubio was stupid enough to go up there and go, I think this is really ridiculous. It's like, yeah, they're going to remember when you lost your mind over this. That's why Trump will endorse you in whatever year you decide to run again. But that he's not as masterful, so he felt, I gotta step up my game for my defense contractor donors. I gotta make sure they know I'm on their side on this one. So it's a sad story. Like literally all these senators are just interchangeable at this point. It's crazy. Like they all, if like every time I say this one's better or this one's good or okay, it's because they have like 1 or 2 votes that aren't the exact same as everybody else, like in their party. I know the one from Kansas, Morin or whatever, the junior senator from Kansas. He surprised me with his votes. He's opposed the Yemen conflict a couple of times now, which again I would not expect from someone from over there, who has never seemingly spoken about the conflict prior to the last maybe year or so. So it's been shocking to just sort of see someone say, this is stupid. We don't need to be over there anymore. Like, yes, thank you. Somebody else is waking up to the myths and the scams and the schemes. So it's all nice and lovely just to kind of get a couple more people who don't buy the stuff. They don't take it seriously. They don't try to play into the scams. I know that word's getting a little redundant here, but you get my point. That it's like all these different elections. they always do this thing where they take a couple of issues, they oversaturate it, and then all the other evil stuff they do in office comes as a direct result of their position not being articulated. So, for example, uh, when we had the Missouri Senate race last year with McCaskill and what I think it was Hawley, whatever that guy's name was, who that's another one that's going to be in office for like 30 years. Get ready for him. You want to talk about Kavanaugh? That's Kavanaugh 2.0. He's going to be there forever. But he was sitting there and he was like, Missourians don't want higher taxes and open borders. I'm like, when the hell did McCaskill ever say she supported that? But notice how during his campaign he doesn't talk about, what his views are on any of these different, none of it, because he knows when he gets in office and he starts voting to stay in these conflicts forever, just like how he voted against, getting out of Yemen that second time around. He knows that the majority of his supporters, or at least the people who voted for him in his state, are not going to know and are not going to care that he wants to stay in some foreign country. And I think, there's about maybe 10% of them you can explain that to and they go, oh my God, that's horrible, that's terrible. But the rest of them, they're completely fine with him bombing innocent people as long as it means, licking Trump's, ball sack at all times, no matter what. Just like I remember when they had the emergency declaration. So like you remember the national emergency thing that Trump had where it was like all the 12 Republicans vote against it because they didn't want the emperor. And I couldn't get over seeing all this stuff about the 12 rhinos, the dirty dozen. Like, you guys are the same idiots that loved Lamar Alexander from Tennessee, who loved him when he voted with Trump on all this other stuff, including for his Supreme Court pick that, you guys wanted to hang Murkowski over, just completely lynch this woman over that one vote. But then when he votes against Trump one time after 2 years of licking them off the entire instance, now it's time to get pissed and say, "Oh, it's the end of you. We're coming for you. We're going to get you out of office." Well, he's already retiring, so it doesn't matter to him anyway. But you get the point. Like, that's crazy. Like, they're so loyal to Trump that anyone who does the slightest defiance, they must be whipped and yanked immediately. Like, that's absolutely insane, but whatever. And like I said, I didn't see a single one of them, crying about Rubio voting for him in all those 2 years of, the Trump era, for lack of a more wanting term. But then when he votes against them one time, here they come. Here comes the complaining online. Oh my God, how could you elect this senator? He was going to do I mean, it's insane. I do like it that, the fact that this happened, and then maybe in the case of Murkowski and Rubio, they have, 3 more years of their terms. Like, by the time they even come up for a vote, you probably won't even remember this. Especially since he's saying he has the money anyway. He said that in his rally yesterday in, what was that, Wisconsin? So, it doesn't matter. You would think. Unless he was lying, which, we've already had, multiple videos that are just dedicated to getting lies about him, just putting all of them a little video. Like, remember the one about Whitaker? I've never met Whitaker. I have no idea who that is. And then months before that, they put out a tape where he's like, "Oh yeah, I know Whitaker. He's a very trusted man." It's like Jesus Christ. It's like with his supporters, like, here is video. Like, forget fake news. This is a video that is known via it being uploaded on YouTube last year to have existed back then, and then one from now where he's saying doesn't like. This is my point, that even when you show them proof of something, they're still like, no, I don't believe it, because anything that's bad about him, they don't buy it. If you told them that, that Trump went into a building and saved the puppy, they'd believe it. But, again, anything that isn't exactly directly just like with Klobuchar, that example I gave earlier, I don't like that senator passed, as just at all. But I still concede the point that she was a sponsor on more legislation that passed than any other senator during whatever session of Congress that was. I've never contested that, even as someone that doesn't like that person. So that's why it's so aggravating that now anything that is negative or has a negative leaning toward a person that you like, you must now say there's no way that could have happened. It's like, damn, he just made up one lie. It's not like he, is destroying something. It's just relax. But again, that's why they overreact on these senators that show a slight bearing of backbone, and for like one instance. So it all adds up. It all goes together. I don't even want to say birds with feather. It's just like the stupidity. It aligns with the kind of cult personality these people want. Like, I thought the whole point of having a body of politicians was so you could have all these different minds that are uncorrupted, or at least not corrupted by financial gain, which is what they are now, be able to sit back and talk about a series of issues and address whatever contemporary topics were going on, and put the U.S. above their party. And instead, we're stuck with two parties that put their party above their, the country with recurrence. Um, that's why this person said that it feels like the Senate and the House, and just really anything involving politics now, is just sort of like a sport, because it's two sports teams trying to get in there and like win. It's not really about actually doing anything at this point. And you do end up getting a couple of people like Ro Khanna who are serious about trying to change stuff, but they can't do much because they're one vote in a sea of hundreds that just don't care about actually doing something of consequence. I said before that like the AOC obsession is so weird, because all I can, like, as far as actual bills that she's tried to propose, all I can think of is the Green New Deal, and that failed because Republicans vote against it, because they have the majority in the Senate. But you get my point that like when I think of someone who's actually had multiple laws to their name, in a short amount of time, it's Roe. And I know we're not talking about the House, but you get my point that like they just take these people who are known for a personality and like prop them up. Like I'm hearing more stories about Romney than any of these other senators, not just because he was a failed presidential nominee. He gets bumped up to all this attention. Then they get surprised when, lo and behold, he's the most memorable out of any of the new ones. Like, yeah, because you guys gave him all this free publicity. So because he did something. Like literally all he's done of actual relative importance are two things since becoming a senator. And we're now 4 months in his tenure. He had the little stupid article he wrote against Trump that was dumb because, again, I don't want to hear you whine about his rhetoric when you literally are going to vote with him 90% of the time, like all the other ones, except for like two people. And I think he was one of the ones that voted against the national emergency declaration. Other than that, I can't think of anything. That's my point, that like they take this stuff and make it seem like it's such a big deal, and it just isn't. Like, that's another person who just wanted, who's just a senator because they have name recognition and money, not because they actually want to do anything. And that's why when he gets out of there, whether it's in this term or another 2 or 3 or however many, he'll just be known as the presidential candidate who became a senator who didn't do anything but got all the stuff he didn't do, to get extra attention because of the name recognition he already had. That's the Romney legacy. That's how he rolls. So, I mean, the other one from Utah, Mike Lee, I only know him because of the his partnering with Bernie on the Yemen bill, and also the fact that he's one of like Cruz's only buddy in the Senate, and then that stupid speech he gave about the Green New Deal with Reagan on that whatever that was, and then like a Star Wars reference and Aquaman and babies, all this weird speech, man. That's the only reason anybody's actually gonna. Isn't that sad that the law he proposed isn't what's going to have him be remembered by people in popular culture? Like to get out of a genocide, that won't be what makes people remember him. It's going to be some stupid speech he gave about a law that was dead on arrival in the Senate because the other party wasn't going to vote for it in a large enough number anyway, under any circumstance. I would feel very embarrassed if I was him, but hey, it is what it is. These people have no shame. That's why they bootlick for these donors and for the president of their party. So I guess in conclusion, all I could say is that I think the worst one right now is Manchin, followed by Graham, who just became a hell of a lot worse because now he's the Senate Judiciary Chairman. And for whatever reason, that job has a weird, like, people who have that position for some reason tend to be douchebags. Like, it's strange. But yeah, thank you for showing up. I appreciate it. I'll try to see if I can do a stream tomorrow. I most likely will. It just depends on if anything happens. I hope you enjoyed, and have a good Sunday.